Welcome to the Senior Techie Podcast. We have a really incredible story today. Well, a story from one of our readers to kick things off.
Yeah, and it's a pretty intense one, honestly.
It really is. So this reader is an 85-year-old gentleman, and he told us that out of nowhere, he just started shaking all over.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, completely out of the blue. His wife rushed him to the ER, and his fever was at 103.4.
At 85, a fever like that that is a massive physical trauma,
Right. So they admitted him, and he spent 4 days in the hospital fighting this off.
which is exhausting in itself.
Exactly. But here's the surprise, and really the whole mission of our conversation. He was sent home, he survived the emergency, but he had this urgent message he wanted us to share.
Because of what happened next.
Right. He said absolutely nobody warned him how utterly wiped out he would feel after the hospital part was over.
Yeah.
You know, the hospital was the acute emergency, but the aftermath at home, it's just its own quiet struggle.
It really is. And I want to validate that right out of the gate. If you are listening and you've recently come home from a hospital stay and you just feel entirely depleted, that exhaustion is incredibly common. It is nothing to be ashamed of.
So we're going to explore that hidden reality of coming home and, more importantly, how you can use simple everyday technology to sort of build a shield around yourself during that recovery.
Because that recovery period is a genuinely vulnerable time.
It is. So let's talk about the trap of being discharged, because our reader said, the nursing staff was excellent. They saved his life, but...
They woke him up all night long.
Exactly, every few hours. Checking vitals, taking blood, putting him on the scale.
Right. It's great medical care, but it is terrible for sleep.
So you come home exhausted, and there's actually a medical term for this, right? It isn't just, getting older.
No, not at all. The medical term is post-hospital syndrome.
Post-hospital syndrome.
Right. And it's basically this window of extreme vulnerability that happens after you're discharged. And it can last up to 7 weeks.
Wait, 7 weeks? After just a 4-day stay?
I know, it sounds disproportionate. But during those 7 weeks, you are at a much higher risk for things like falls, confusion, a really poor appetite.
Wow.
And even being readmitted to the hospital. And often that readmission is for something completely different than what you originally went in for.
Just because your body is so weak from the original ordeal.
Exactly. Your reserves are just completely tapped out.
So what's the math on this? Because I know there's a rule of thumb for recovery.
Yeah, a good rule of thumb is to plan for roughly 1 week of recovery for every single day you spent in the hospital.
Okay, so 4 days in the hospital means...
4 weeks to really regain your normal energy levels.
That is wild. Think about that. Before you say yes to any plans in that first week home, you really have to ask yourself, would I be able to go to this dinner if I had just pulled an all-nighter 3 nights in a row?
That is a perfect way to look at it.
Because biologically, your body is doing all this invisible repair work, right? And that demands a massive amount of energy.
It takes everything you've got, which means rest is basically the ultimate cure.
So if rest is the cure, we have to protect it.
We do. And we can actually use the technology that's already in our pockets to defend that rest.
Okay, I love this. But before we get into the actual steps, let's translate some of this tech jargon because it can sound intimidating.
Oh, absolutely.
So first, the calendar app or calendar blocking.
Yeah.
Think of this like taking a thick red marker and crossing out an entire page in your physical paper diary.
Right, so nobody can write a new appointment over it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then there's Do Not Disturb on your smartphone. People get confused by this. It is like taking the telephone off the hook and hanging a Do Not Knock sign on your bedroom door.
I like that. The mail still gets delivered silently, but nothing rings to wake you up.
Perfect. And finally, the voice assistant. Siri or Google Assistant, don't think of it as a computer. Think of it like having an invisible helper sitting in the corner of the room who can just instantly flip over an hourglass when you ask them to time something.
Those are great analogies. So using those tools, here are the specific digital habits you want to set up.
Okay, what's first?
First, you want to use that red marker. Block out the entire first week on your Google or Apple calendar as just resting, no commitments.
Oh, that's smart. It gives you permission to say no.
Exactly. And if you share your calendar with family, it's a visual reminder for them, too.
Okay, what about medications? Because you almost always come home with new prescriptions.
Right, and trying to remember those is exhausting. So set recurring phone reminders for your medications. Just offload that job to your phone.
But wait, if the phone is on Do Not Disturb, will the medication reminders still go off?
It will. That's the beauty of it. You want to turn on the smartphone's do not disturb schedule for your nighttime hours. So say 9 p.m. to 8 a.m.
To protect that precious sleep.
Right. But your personal alarms for medication will still override it and chime.
That's great. What else?
Well, when you leave the hospital, they give you all these follow-up appointments. Don't try to remember them. Ask a family member to instantly put those into your digital calendar right then and there.
Yeah, you don't want to rely on a foggy memory for a cardiologist appointment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finally, use that invisible helper, the voice assistant. Use it to set simple timers.
Like, hey, set a timer for 30 minutes so I drink some water.
Yes. Or for having a snack or taking a short 5-minute walk, you don't even have to look at a screen, just speak into the room.
I love that. It takes zero physical effort. So that protects our schedule and our rest. But let's pivot to physical safety.
Which is just as critical.
Yeah, because moving around the house is a big deal after a hospital stay. So why don't talk about wearables, like the Apple Watch or fitness trackers?
They are phenomenal safety nets.
Right. And to use another analogy, the big future here is fall detection. And fall detection is basically like having a digital tripwire attached to a safety flare.
I love that visual.
If the watch senses you've hit the ground hard, it automatically sets off the flare to call for help unless you tap it and say, hey, I'm okay.
Right. And why this matters now more than ever is because after days of bed rest and IV lines, your balance is severely compromised.
Just from lying down so much.
Yes. Your muscles weaken, your blood pressure shifts weirdly when you stand up. It makes falls highly, highly likely. Plus, these wearables track your heart rate and sleep.
Which gives your doctor actual concrete data instead of you just guessing, I think I slept okay.
Exactly. It's real data.
So how do we make sure this digital tripwire is actually working? Let's walk through the setup, say, for an Apple Watch.
Okay, let's do it.
So you open the Watch app on your paired iPhone.
Right.
You tap My Watch, and then you scroll down to Emergency SOS.
Yep. And that's where you'll find it.
Right. You make sure the fall detection switch is toggled on. But here's the key. You have to explicitly choose always on, not just only during workouts.
Because you're not working out. You're walking to the bathroom at 2 in the morning.
Exactly. But let me challenge this for a second, because I've read that fall detection usually turns on automatically if you entered your age as 55 or older when you bought the watch.
That is true. It usually does.
So why shouldn't we just trust that it's on? Why dig through the menus?
Because you never want to assume when it comes to an emergency flare. Maybe someone else set up the watch for you and put in the wrong birth year. Or a software update turned it off by accident.
Right. Trust but verify.
Exactly. Verifying it is essential. And while you're in there, you must confirm that your medical ID is updated.
Oh, with all the new medications from the hospital?
Yes. First responders, check that medical ID. If your emergency contacts or meds are wrong, they're flying blind.
That makes so much sense. Okay, so technology is fantastic, but human communication, especially right when you are leaving the hospital, that's where things really seem to fall apart.
It is the ultimate danger zone.
The danger zone, why is that?
Well, according to the Illinois Department on Aging and AARP, hospital discharge planning is the exact moment vital details get lost.
Because the patient is just too exhausted.
Entirely. They are too exhausted to absorb the instructions. They just want to go home.
Right, you're just nodding and saying, sure, while they hand you a stack of papers.
Exactly.
So let's give our listeners a short list. A kitchen table action plan for the minute they walk through the front door.
I think that's crucial.
Step 1, reschedule any non-urgent items for at least a week out. If you were in the hospital longer, push them out even further.
Protect the calendar.
Step 2, ask someone, a caregiver, a spouse, to handle the medication schedule for those first few days. Use a simple pill organizer or the phone reminders we talked about.
Yes, take that cognitive burden off the patient completely.
And step 3, write down exactly what the discharge nurse says before you leave. Or have your family do it, because those printed instruction sheets they give you, they just vanish into thin air once you get home.
They get mixed in with the mail or left on the counter. Writing it down in a notebook is so much safer.
Okay, so you're home, you're resting, but we need to talk about warning signs. How do we know the difference between just being exhausted and something actually being wrong?
This is a really important distinction. Fatigue like, I just need a nap, tired. That is totally expected. That is post-hospital syndrome.
Right. Healing fatigue.
But you must call a doctor for specific things. A new fever, for instance.
Okay, so if the hospital fever broke, but now it's back.
Yes. Or new confusion.
Oh.
If you or your loved one suddenly can't follow a conversation.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And finally, if you are simply too weak to even get out of bed for meals, that is not normal fatigue. That's a red flag.
Got it. New fever, new confusion, or totally incapacitated.
Exactly. Home care researchers have found that the first 2 weeks carry the highest risk for these kinds of complications.
It's just such a fragile time.
It is. Oh, and I should mention the National Council on Aging, or NCOA, they have this great guide called Tips for Recovering After Being Hospitalized. It is a really solid, no-nonsense resource to bookmark.
That's a great tip. It just comes down to this. Your body deserves the exact same patience you'd give a broken bone.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you wouldn't immediately run a marathon on a broken leg, right?
Yeah.
You need to give yourself time and rest and just not rush back to normal.
It is physical trauma, even if you
Ah.
can't see a cast on your leg.
Exactly. Well, to wrap up our reader's story, the gentleman who wrote in, he is home. He just celebrated turning 85, and he's doing really well.
That is wonderful to hear.
It is, and he's doing well because he finally gave himself permission to just rest. He used these tools, he leaned on his family, and he didn't rush it.
Which is the whole secret to beating post-hospital syndrome.
But, looking at all of this, the hospital stay, the extreme exhaustion, it does leave me with a much larger question.
Okay, what is it?
Well, hospitals are built for acute emergency care
Right.
and constant
No,
monitoring.
the waking you up every 2 hours.
Right, which means they are fundamentally hostile to restorative sleep.
Oh, totally. So until the medical system redesigns hospitals to actually allow patients to rest, how can we better advocate for uninterrupted sleep while we are still in the hospital, rather than just waiting until we get home?
Wow. That is a fantastic point to end on, because you shouldn't have to wait until you are discharged to actually start healing.
Exactly.
Definitely something for all of us to think about the next time we or a loved one are admitted.
Absolutely.
This podcast was brought to you by The Senior Techie. It's available on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. If you'd like to receive their free newsletters, you can subscribe at theseniortechie.com.